Lord, have mercy upon us. Lord, have mercy upon us. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Almighty God, who in thy wisdom and goodness hast appointed the office of rulers and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of men and women, we beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us, thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in these islands. Let thy blessing descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote thy honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of these islands and those whose interests thou hast committed to our charge. And this we beg for Jesus Christ's sake. Amen. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us all evermore. Amen.
Confirmation of minutes for the 19th of May. Any objections? Messages from the governor, there appear to be none. Announcements by the speaker. Remember, presiding, the speaker will be absent from today's proceedings. There are no messages from the Senate, papers, and other communications to the House. We will start with the, you're doing the premier as well? Okay, we'll start with the paper, but the premier's paper will be done by the Deputy Premier, the Honorable Walter Robon.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Acting Speaker. Good morning to members of the legislature and listening public. I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of the Honorable House of Assembly, the Bermuda Monetary Authority Annual Report 2022. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
The next paper is by the Honorable Minister Jason Hayward.
Good morning, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of the Honorable House of Assembly the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Act 2022, Commencement Day Notice 2023, made by the Minister responsible for labor in exercise of the power conferred by Section 23 of the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Act 2022. The Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Amendment Order 2023, made by the Minister responsible for labor in exercise of the power conferred by Section 11 of the Employment Wage Commission Act 2019, and the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Regulations 2023, made by the Minister responsible for labor in exercise of his power conferred by Section 6.2 and 7.2 of the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Act 2022. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The next communication is from the Honorable Minister Kim Wilson.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have the honor to attach and submit for the information of the Honorable House of Assembly the Public Health Communicable Disease Order 2023, made by the Minister responsible for health in exercise of the powers conferred by Section 67 of the Public Health Act 1949, and the Quarantine Communicable Disease Order 2023, made by the Minister responsible for health in exercise of the power as conferred by Section 8B of the Quarantine Act 2017. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. There are no petitions. We have statements by ministers and junior ministers. We'll start with the Honorable Colonel Birch.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Monday, May 22nd, 2023, I, along with the Honorable Premier, the Honorable David Burt, JPMP, yourself, the Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Derek V. Burgess, JPMP, Mrs. Renee Ming, JPMP, the Member of Parliament for Constituency 1, and the Marina owner, Mr. Mark Sewers, attended the celebratory grand opening for the new St. George's Marina facility on Ordnance Island, which provides a haven for numerous super yachts vessels, which are larger than standard yachts and are typically serviced by highly skilled, highly paid crew members. This achievement not only symbolizes this government's unwavering commitment to the super yacht charter industry, but also reaffirms our dedication to the ancillary industries that thrive alongside it. Mr. Speaker, originally conceived in October 2010, the Corporation of St. George's, with the support of the then PLP Helm Ministry of Public Works, began an investigation into the possibility of developing a marina around Ordnance Island, as well as a boutique hotel over the corporation-owned car park. However, despite all efforts, financing for this development proved difficult. But nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, the corporation pressed on by issuing a standalone request for proposal in January 2012 for the marina, which included an initial phasing of procuring planning approval, undertaking additional engineering assessments that would provide a more accurate cost, initiating the necessary commercial agreements between all parties so that the necessary funding could be secured. The corporation took this course of action as it believed the marina on its own was more likely to attract investors due to the lower capital costs in comparison with the hotel and marina combination. This belief that proved true as 3 bids were received. Mr. Speaker, arising out of this 2012 procurement process, an agreement in principle was made for the development of this marina between the Corporation of St. George's Marina Development Limited that would see the renovation of the existing dock at Ordnance Island. However, in December 2012, right as the project was set to move to the next step, as we are all aware, there was a change in government. Mr. Speaker, I cannot speak to why this project seemed to be on a 5-year hiatus from December 2012, when this administration came into government in July 2017. We vowed to revitalize this initiative. So much so was placed in our 2020 election manifesto, and I quote, "Your PLP government will enact legislation to advance the construction of a marina in St. George's Harbor. A marina will enhance the town while providing a much-needed economic boost to the community." Mr. Speaker, the corporation, with the full support of the Ministry of Public Works, re-engaged the developer to see the actual materialization of this project. To show this government's belief in not only the economic revitalization of the town of St. George's, but potential macroeconomic impact of the super yachts to Bermuda's tourism industry, Mr. Speaker, first, this Honorable House wisely passed the Super Yachts and Other Vessels Miscellaneous Act 2019. This legislation, which supports 3 categories of vessel permits, transit, cruise, and super yacht charters, make it easier for super yachts to obtain permits for cruising and chartering while allowing them to stay in Bermuda without penalties for refueling and stocking up on supplies during transit. The Act brings substantial advantages to our economy as these vessels contribute significantly to the local consumption of goods and services, especially now in the former capital. Once this passed, Mr. Speaker, in November 2021, then Acting Minister Wayne Furbert announced a 21-year leasing agreement and public-private partnership between the developer, again, St. George's Marina Development Limited, the Corporation of St. George's, and the government, which solidified the path forward to see the fulsome retrofit of the existing dock, including improved and designated dock areas for visiting yachts, 650 linear feet of visiting dockage for small yachts, 10 stern-to-berths for super yachts with mooring systems, marina reception, showers, laundry facilities, lounge, food and beverage, and internet cafe, and the installation of sewage pumping services. Mr. Speaker, I presented to this Honorable House a statement on May 6, 2022, detailing some of the issues in which we encountered during this project, mainly the sharp increase in the associated costs, first estimated at $2.2 million, with a completion date of June 2022. However, attributed to the pandemic, supply chain issues, and material cost increases, the total cost rose to $4.12 million. Whilst this was not ideal, Mr. Speaker, we are steadfast in the belief that this investment was necessary as the now open marina will have major positive macroeconomic impacts to the former capital and the whole island for decades to come. Mr. Speaker, I must acknowledge the essential efforts of Christian Construction Limited, which spearheaded the primary dock works, D&J Construction for the renovation works to the building, and the invaluable technical supervision provided by engineering consultants Brunel Limited. Mr. Speaker, this facility will solidify Bermuda's position as a premier destination for super yachts and unlock new opportunities for local businesses, especially those in the town of St. George's. As I conclude, Mr. Speaker, I want to express my congratulations to Mr. Mark Sewers, owner of the St. George's Marina Development Limited, and his team, and wish them much success. To also congratulate the Corporation of St. George for increasing revenue for the town by this arrangement. This marina contributes to the ongoing economic revitalization of the town of St. George, and let me say, based on our site visit recently, where we saw hundreds of tourists walking about the town and enjoying themselves, this only helps to contribute to the business community within the former capital. As we look forward to future expansion of the marina, it would be remiss of me not to mention that this government has set a new standard for excellence in the super yacht industry, which ultimately leads the way to in ensuring a thriving and prosperous future for Bermuda. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Colonel Birch. The next statements from the Minister of Education, Mr. Diallo Riban. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, colleagues, and good morning, listening audience. Mr. Speaker, this morning I rise before this honorable House to share information about the recent graduation events at Bermuda College and to provide details of this class of 2023. Mr. Speaker, like most universities and colleges, commencement represents the culmination and highlight of the academic year for the Bermuda College. Bermuda College's commencement also marks the start of the graduation season in Bermuda. This year's event was held on the afternoon of the 18th of May, 2023, under the big tent on its sports field, with biochemist, researcher, lecturer, and first Black female founder of a genomics company in the world, Dr. Karika Weldon, gave the commencement address. The graduate's address was delivered by Mr. Jaden Cheeseman, a former student of the Barclay Institute who received his Associate of Science in Education and is aspiring to be a physical education teacher. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to note that there were 102 graduates, with almost 54% of the class of 2023 earning either merit, that is a GPA between 3.0 and 3.49, or distinction, a GPA between 3.5 and 4.0, including 4 Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society graduates. Again, the Associate of Arts and Business Administration program produced the largest graduating group with 22 graduates. Mr. Speaker, please indulge me at this time to share the number of graduates for other programs represented on the graduation list, which includes the Division of Arts and Science, Associate of Arts, 9 graduates, Associate of Arts, Art Design, 9 graduates, Associate of Arts, 4, Associate of Arts, Early Childhood Education, 4, Associate of Arts and Science, 4, Associate of Science, 1, Associate of Science, Actuarial Science, 3, Associate of Science in Education, 2. From the Division of Business, Hospitality, and Technical Education, Certificate in Accounting Technician, 1, Certificate in Applied Science Technology, 1, Certificate in Electrical Wiring Technology, 5, Certificate in Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning Technology, 2, Certificate in Motor Vehicle Technology, 2, Certificate in Plumbing Technology, 2, Certificate in Wood Technology, 2, Diploma in Computer Network Technology, 1, Diploma in Culinary Arts, 7, Diploma in Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning Technology, 2, Diploma in Plumbing Technology, 1, Diploma in Hospitality Management, 3, Associate of Applied Science Culinary Arts, 1, Associate of Applied Science Hospitality Management, 1, Associate of Arts Business Administration, 22, Associate of Science Computer Information Systems, 3, the Division of Nursing and Allied Health, Associate of Science Nursing, 11, Associate of Science Pre-Health Science, 4, and lastly, Associate of Science Pre-Medical Science 3. Mr. Speaker, there were also 3 dual enrollment graduates who were also awarded their associate degrees and certificates before receiving their high school certificates later this month. There are also 11 College Promise graduates, of whom 4 graduated with distinction and 3 with merit. Mr. Speaker, as a reminder to my honorable colleagues and the listening audience, as a means to provide additional support to our public school students, the College Promise program was introduced in 2020. This program allows any student from Cedar Bridge Academy or the Barclay Institute who graduates with a 3.0 GPA or higher to attend the Bermuda College tuition-free. I'm immensely proud to see these young men and women take advantage of this opportunity. I wish them all the success in their next steps. Mr. Speaker, other outstanding award recipients include Most Outstanding Arts Graduate, Yasmin Codrington Emid. Most Outstanding Art and Design Graduate, Leela McHugh. Most Outstanding Actuarial Science Graduate, Machika Daquez. Most Outstanding Education Graduate, Jaden Cheeseman. Most Outstanding Early Childhood Education Graduate, Sharobi Otterbridge Dill. Most Outstanding Arts and Science Graduate, Tizai Trott. Arts and Science Distinguished Dean's Award, Yukia Hill. Overall Most Outstanding Division of Arts and Science Award graduate, Shante Wilson. Most Outstanding General Business Graduate, Anaya Keynes. Most Outstanding Management Graduate, Shani Smith. Most Outstanding Accountant Finance Graduate, Maya Peets. Most Outstanding Information Technology Graduate, Sean DeCuto. Most Best Culinary Arts Graduate, Carolina Carter. Ming Family Culinary Graduate Award, Gildan Weldon. Business and Hospitality's Dean Award for Excellence, Sarah Costa. Most Outstanding Electrical Wiring Graduate, Dajon Place. Most Outstanding Heating, Ventilation, and Air Conditioning Graduate, Shamari Fox. Most Outstanding Plumbing Graduate, Dylan Lightbourne and Aaron Claude White. Most Outstanding Wood Technology Graduate, Isra Sharif Furbert. Director of Nursing and Allied Health Leadership Award, Melanie Garza. Excellence in Clinical Nursing Practice Award, Rebecca Darrell. Nursing Impact Award, Giselle Mohammed. Nursing Academic Achievement Award, Jikar Chapman. Pre-Health Science Academic Achievement Award, Gabriella Camera. Pre-Medical Science Academic Achievement Award, Sakina Francis. Mr. Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the 11 students who graduated with their Bachelor of Business Administration in association with the Bermuda College degrees through the longstanding partnership Bermuda College has with Mount St. Vincent University, 6 of whom graduated with distinction. Mr. Speaker, during the evening, the college's Author Division of Professional and Career Education also held its award ceremony, where it issued 269 awards covering 34 different careers in the following areas: Certificate for Intellectual Disability, Certificate in Basic DJing, and the International Coaching and Leadership Institute's Coaching Foundation certificates were awarded for the first time. Mr. Speaker, included in the Outpace Awards were several current high school students and 22 graduates as following: the Endeavor Marine Springtime Program, Cohort 2022, 8 students, Cohort 2023, 4 students. Certificate for Nursing students, 10. City and Guilds Entry-Level Introductory Award for Employability Skills, 26 students. Mr. Speaker, I ask that you in this honorable house join me in congratulating the Bermuda College class of 2023 and the APACE Award recipients who discovered and followed their path at the Bermuda College. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The next statement is from Minister Haywood.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. I am pleased to rise today to provide to the members of this honorable House an overview of the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Order 2023, the order, and the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Regulations 2023, the regulations that have been tabled in this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Act 2022 sets out the guidelines for the application of the minimum hourly wage and the enforcement provisions regarding adherence to the payment of a minimum hourly wage rate, amongst other things. Additionally, It gives labor inspectors the authority to investigate an employee's complaint against his employer and issue enforcement notices to employers who fail to correctly remunerate their employees pursuant to this order. Mr. Speaker, the regulations, which is subject to the negative resolution procedure, are necessary to properly carry out the provisions of the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Act 2022, as it relates to the average hourly rate of pay for the minimum hourly wage and the records to be kept by every employer. The regulations outline the calculation for the average hourly rate of pay, as well as the records to be kept by the employer at their premises or a place where their employees work, that show that they are in compliance with the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Act 2022 and the order, and are paying their employees at a rate that is equal to the minimum hourly wage rate. Mr. Speaker, the order, which is subject to negative resolution procedure, sets out the minimum hourly wage rate for Bermuda at $16.40. The order took effect on the 1st of June 2023. Employers of low wage earners are now required to amend their contracts and or statements of employment to ensure that they are compliant with the order. Mr. Speaker, the minimum hourly wage rate is set at the poverty threshold and may carry an inflation uplift using the average. Mr. Speaker, the order provides for a hybrid payment structure for employees who receive gratuities and service charges, and for personal service workers, barbers, hairdressers, and beauticians in accordance with the Bermuda Standard Classification of Occupations. These employees will receive a basic wage set by their employer, to which service charges, gratuities, and/or commissions will be added to guarantee a minimum hourly wage rate of $16.40. Where an employer's basic wage plus service charges, gratuities, and/or commissions do not equal the minimum hourly wage rate of $16.40, their employer will be liable to provide the difference. This guarantees that an employee will receive a minimum hourly wage rate for every hour worked. Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind the members of this honorable House that the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Act 2022 entitles employees who believe that they are not being correctly remunerated to request a review of their employment records. If the employee finds that they are in fact not being compensated correctly, or that their employer fails to adhere to their requests, they may file a complaint with the Department of Labor. Mr. Speaker, employers who are found to be operating contrary to the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Act 2022 will be issued with enforcement notices by an inspector requiring them to pay the difference between the current rate of pay and the minimum hourly wage, as well as awarding an additional 10% of the minimum hourly wage for each pay reference period in which they were in contravention. Additionally, inspectors have the power to issue civil penalties for failure to keep the necessary records according to the Act and for failure to comply with the enforcement notice. Mr. Speaker, this order, together with the Employment Minimum Hourly Wage Entitlement Act 2022 and the regulations, will ensure that persons within low-paying job categories, personal service employees, and those workplaces and industries sectors where gratuities and service charges may be provided will receive a dignified wage that will give them the ability to afford basic necessities to support themselves and their families. Mr. Speaker, the ministry would like to thank the members of this honorable House for the opportunity to address them in this regard. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The next ministerial statement is from the Honorable Wayne Furbert. Minister, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, everyone. I rise today to express my deep concern and condemnation of the recently reported attacks on bus operators in Bermuda. These senseless acts of violence have no place in our society and will not be tolerated. We stand in solidarity with our bus operators and their families during this difficult time, and we'll do everything in our power to ensure that justice is served. The safety and well-being of our public transportation operators is of paramount importance to us. These valued workers play a crucial role in keeping our island moving and we owe them a debt of gratitude for their hard work and dedication. It is unacceptable that they should have to face violence and aggression while carrying out their duties. Mr. Speaker, bus operators are essential to Bermuda's transportation system. They are responsible for safely transporting thousands of passengers every day, ensuring they reach their destination on time and in comfort. They provide a critical service that is relied upon by locals and tourists alike, and are an integral part of Bermuda's economy and society. Frontline public transportation workers are often the first point of contact for visitors to our island and are ambassadors for Bermuda's hospitality and culture. They provide a friendly and welcoming service, helping to create a positive and memorable experience for our visitors. They also play a crucial role in reducing traffic congestion and promoting sustainable transportation, which is essential for our island environment and economic sustainability. Without those on the front line of the public transportation industry, Bermuda's transportation system would not function effectively, and we would all be worse off for it. Mr. Speaker, we are taking immediate steps to address this issue and prevent any further attacks on our transportation officers. We are working closely with the Department of Public Transportation, DPT, Occupational Safety and Health Committee, and other stakeholders to identify and address the underlying causes of this violence. Some of the advances made thus far are DPT are holding lunch and learn sessions in the cafeteria for staff with various stakeholders. Bermuda Police to receive firsthand information, instructions, and answers to their questions. Development of training program for staff members, equipping them with necessary skill sets to effectively manage and navigate challenging interactions with the public. Deployment of a policy to extend the deployment of surveillance cameras across buses currently without such systems, and the implementation of information signage aimed at notifying the public about the presence and purpose of the surveillance cameras. Mr. Speaker, their affirmation actions shed light on a larger concern regarding safeguarding of our workforce as a whole. The government remains dedicated to assessing existing legislation in order to ascertain the necessity of additional laws that can establish effective mechanisms to ensure the safety of our community. The exemplification of a law that grants the authorities of the United Kingdom the ability to tackle safety concern is the Anti-Social Behavior, Crime and Policing Act of 2014. Considering the potential benefits, we will continue ongoing discussions to explore the possibility of implementing a comparable act or a similar measure. Mr. Speaker, I conclude in saying we will not rest until those responsible for those attacks are brought to justice. We call on the public to come forward with any information they may have that could assist in these investigations. If anyone witnesses a physical confrontation in progress on a public vehicle, they shall contact 911. If the matter has ended, witnesses should call 292-3851 to support their bus operator and report what they have seen. We will work closely with the police to ensure that those responsible are held accountable for their actions. I would like to reiterate our commitment to the safety and well-being of our bus operators and all frontline workers in Bermuda. We will not tolerate any form of violence or aggressions toward them, and we will take all necessary steps to ensure their safety. We urge everyone to show the support for our frontline transportation workers and work together towards a safer and more peaceful Bermuda. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The next statement is from the Honorable Minister for Tourism, the Honorable Vance Campbell. Campbell, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you. Mr. Speaker, I wish to provide this honorable House with an update on the USATF Bermuda Grand Prix, which was held in partnership with the Puma American Track League on May 21st, 2023 at the Philadelphia Stadium. Mr. Speaker, this prestigious sports event saw the world's top track and field competitors from more than 20 countries go head-to-head in one of the most exciting events to take place in Bermuda in this post-pandemic era. Mr. Speaker, it was a proud moment to see our culture, our country, and the hospitality of our people on full display to hundreds of thousands of people around the world. Thanks to the USATF Bermuda Grand Prix being broadcast live on NBC to 140 territories. Mr. Speaker, data is still being gathered to confirm the actual media reach, believed to be quite significant. Mr. Speaker, The USATF Bermuda Grand Prix reinforced our credibility in delivering a first-class international sporting event. Honorable members should note that the 2023 event marked the second year that Bermuda Tourism Authority, in partnership with the Bermuda National Athletics Association and USA Track and Field, successfully delivered a Continental Gold event, the second highest designation of World Athletics events. Mr. Speaker, Bermuda is the only USATF Grand Prix event held outside of the United States. And thanks to our hosting of this event, we have attracted the attention of other countries in our region. Mr. Speaker, they have marveled at our community support, infrastructure, and ability to attract top-tier global sponsorship to support such an event. Mr. Speaker, the event produced several outstanding leading performances. Olympic gold medalist Jasmine Camacho Quinn stunned the crowd by running the third fastest all conditions time in history in the hurdles. U.S. Olympic long jumper Tara Davis Woodall had a spectacular showcase as she jumped a world lead in the women's long jump. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, in the 100 meters, sprinter Christian Coleman edged out 200 meters American record holder Noah Lyles with a time of 9.78 seconds. Mr. Speaker, one new addition to this year's program included the World Relays, which saw a head-to-head race between Team USA and Team Jamaica. With the addition of these relays, Bermuda saw additional support staff, coaches, and athletes visit our island shores, bringing the total overseas visitor numbers to 289 participants. Mr. Speaker, in order to create new visitor opportunities for the island, the Bermuda Tourism Authority worked with the USATF to market packages for Masters athletes who participated in the weekend's event program. In total, 22 Masters athletes and guests traveled to Bermuda and took part in the Move More Bermuda Games sponsored by the Ministry of Health. Mr. Speaker, these participants, many of whom were first-time visitors to the island, were fascinated and keenly interested in Bermuda and our plans for a more robust program. Plans are already underway to attract a larger group of Masters athletes in 2024. Mr. Speaker, we also realized that it was critical to expand the experience and provide opportunities for our young people as we hosted this event. The Athene Fastest Kid on the Rock races and Run, Jump, Throw Clinic were youth-focused initiatives created to inspire and expose our young people to track and field, and so that they can learn more about engaging in active lifestyles. The Run, Jump, Throw Clinic and Fastest Kid races attracted more than 250 youth participants who learned the fundamental elements of track and field from top Olympians and competed in front of an enthusiastic home crowd. Mr. Speaker, as you and honorable members can appreciate, top-tier events such as these must have adequate logistical support and funding resources to ensure their success. I should note that there were no appearance fees for any of the elite athletes or ambassadors. The BTA, with the assistance of our industry partners, aided in supplementing hotel and air costs for non-USATF tiered athletes and the relay athletes only, which included 65 athletes. Bermuda's first-year partnership with the American Puma League garnered additional international press coverage and facilitated a new relationship for the BNAA, who will receive Puma-branded competition uniforms for our national track and field team members. This support of our national team can be directly linked with Puma's sponsorship of the USATF Bermuda Grand Prix. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we recognize that the success we enjoyed with the USATF Bermuda Grand Prix would not be possible without the support and participation of all of those in the industry. I wish to extend a special thanks to the BTA, our hoteliers, local sponsors, taxi and minibus operators, the Department of Public Transportation, our restaurateurs, the volunteers, and every single resident who came out to the Flora Duffy Stadium to not only cheer on our local sports talent, but our international sports talent as well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The final statements from the Premier, the Honorable David Burke. Premier, you have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Section 28 of the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act, earlier today, the Deputy Premier, on my behalf, tabled the Bermuda Monetary Authority Annual Report 2022, which I'll refer to hereinafter as the report. Mr. Speaker, Bermuda's financial services sector is subject to the regulation and supervision of the Bermuda Monetary Authority. The authority operates pursuant to the Bermuda Monetary Authority Act, which provides it with a number of principal objects, including the supervision, regulation, and inspection of financial institutions or from within Bermuda, together with promotion of financial stability and the soundness of financial institutions. Mr. Speaker, the House will be aware that the authority has specific licensing and supervisory responsibilities under the following regulatory statutes: the Banks and Deposits Companies Act 1999, the Digital Asset Business Act 2018, the Insurance Act 1978, the Investment Business Act 2003, the Investment Funds Act 2006, the Funds Administration Provider Business Act 2019, the Trust Regulation of Trusts Act 2001, together with other statutes. The authority also regulates the Bermuda Stock Exchange. Mr. Speaker, the authority's mission is to contribute to Bermuda's financial stability, protect consumers of financial services, and protect Bermuda's currency through maintaining effective and proactive regulatory frameworks through highly skilled and engaged workforce, delivering efficient operations and sustainable business practices, and supporting responsible innovation locally and in global markets. Mr. Speaker, the authority has received international recognition of its work. The House should be aware that Bermuda is one of only 7 total jurisdictions worldwide that has received the United States National Association of Insurance Commissioners qualified jurisdiction status. Additionally, Bermuda is one of 3 jurisdictions to have received the NAIC elevated status of a reciprocal jurisdiction. Bermuda has also been granted equivalent status under the EU Solvency II Directive for its commercial insurance sectors. Mr. Speaker, the authority is recognized as a constructive participant in a number of international organizations. Meetings with such organizations offer opportunities for the authority to strengthen its relationships with other supervisors. Currently, the managing director, supervision of the authority, serves as a member of the International Association of Insurance Supervisors Executive Committee. The authority staff are also heavily involved as chair, vice chair, or member in a variety of IAIS committees and subcommittees, such as the Macro-Prudential Committee, the Policy Development Committee, the Resolution Working Group, and the Financial Crime Forum. Mr. Speaker, in addition to the foregoing, the authority is an active member of the Financial Stability Board, Regional Consultative Group for the Americas, and participates in and contributes to the Bank for International Settlements and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, better known as the OECD's Insurance and Private Pensions Commission. The authority is also a member of the Global Financial Innovation Network. The Global Financial Innovation Network is a group of regulators committed to advancing financial integrity, consumer well-being, financial inclusion, and financial stability. Mr. Speaker, the authority is authorized to act as an advisor to the Minister of Finance on policy matters relating to any financial institution. Accordingly, it may propose laws where it can do so appropriately and consistently with its functions under the BMA Act 1969. The regulatory proposals covered during the relevant period included, but were not limited to, the conduct of business, fees, banks, investment business, insurance, and amendments to the Act. Moving on to highlights from the report under supervision and licensing. Mr. Speaker, the number of banks increased from 4 to 5 in 2022, and the consolidated assets of the banking sector decreased by 2.9%, or $0.8 billion, $26 billion in 2022. This change was in line with a decrease in deposit liabilities and is evidenced primarily by cash and deposit liabilities decreasing 16.4% to $4.2 billion from $5 billion in 2021. Mr. Speaker, investments retained the largest share of total assets, and this was 46% compared to 46.2% in 2021, followed by loans at 34% compared to 32.6% in 2021, and cash and deposits at 16.2% compared to 18.8% in 2021. Mr. Speaker, net interest income continues to be the largest component of the banking sector's income at $620 million. And this, Mr. Speaker, is compared to $484 million in 2021. So we do see the reflection of the increase in interest rates, expanding banking sector profits. Moving on to the insurance sector. Mr. Speaker, 1,196 insurance companies were registered as of the 31st of December 2022, which is compared to 1,158 in 2021. And there were 80 new insurers registered in 2022 compared to 64 new insurers registered in the previous year. Mr. Speaker, companies and groups are required to submit their statutory financial returns either 4 months, 5 months, or 6 months after their financial year end, depending on their license class. While the majority of companies have a December 31st year end, some companies have financial year ends outside the calendar year end. And occasionally, companies also apply and are granted filing extensions. The underwriting statistics in the report incorporate an aggregation of all data from the 2021 and year-end filings received in 2022. The 2022 year-end statutory filings, initial filing was due at the end of April 2023, and therefore the 2021 year-end information is the most recent complete set of information. Mr. Speaker, according to the 2021 year information, total capital and surplus of Bermuda's insurance sector was $370.7 billion, and this compares to $349 billion in the prior year. Gross premiums written were $268 billion, which compares to $294 billion in the previous year. The movement between 2021 and 2022 gross premiums written is explained by the lumpy nature of long-term business, where insurers write significantly large block of business in a particular year and then run them off through the life of the contract. The numbers were largely driven by a few large insurers. Total assets of Bermuda's insurance sector were $1.6 trillion in 2021 compared to $1.4 trillion in 2020. The main increase of $175 billion is due to new insurers entering the market and increased business from a select group of companies. Yes, Mr. Speaker, continued growth and expansion of our international business sector, contrary to what some will have you believe. Moving on to the investment sector, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there were 48 licensed investment business providers operating in Bermuda in 2022 compared to 51 in the prior year. The aggregate total assets under management was $216.2 billion compared to $253.2 billion in the prior year. 67% pertains to European clients, while 24% pertain to Bermuda-based clients. And total assets under administration were $26.8 billion compared to $31.5 billion reported for 2021. Mr. Speaker, there were 804 investment funds in the Investment Funds Act register compared to 799 in the prior year, operating in or from within Bermuda in 2022, with the net asset value of $292.7 billion, which is an increase from the $219.6 billion reported in the previous year. Mr. Speaker, there were 24 fund administration licenses in issue at the end of 2022, unchanged by the prior year, with $242.4 billion of assets under administration. Moving on to the digital asset business sector, Mr. Speaker, there were 16 digital asset business providers operating in Bermuda at the end of 2022, compared to 10 at the end of 2021. And we now know, Mr. Speaker, that number is over 20. Licensing fees increased year over year from $369,000 to $845,000 in 2002, which is showing the expansion of the sector. Mr. Speaker, when returning to the Bermuda Stock Exchange, total equity market capitalization of the Bermuda Stock Exchange stood at $166 billion at the end of 2002, as compared with $334 billion at the end of 2021. Mr. Speaker, a total of 142 new insurance-linked securities were added to the BSX in 2022, increasing the total nominal value up to $52 billion from $50.8 billion in 2021. Mr. Speaker, domestic trading volume totaled 1.42 million shares in 2022, compared to 3 million in 2021, and was valued at 13.13 million compared to 23.4 million in 2021. Moving on to human resources, Mr. Speaker, when turning to the employees at the authority at year end, the 31st of December 2022, the authority was comprised of 235 full-time permanent employees, compared with 219 in the prior year. Moving on to financials, members' attention is drawn to the following highlights set out in the Statement of Accounts reports. Net comprehensive income was $5.45 million, down from $13.3 million in the previous year. Total revenue increase was up to $79.65 million, up from $73.09 million, and the increase is mainly due to a $2.47 million increase in revenue from supervisory and licensing fees. Mr. Speaker, expenses increased by 24.12%, up to $74.2 million. The increase was mainly due to the $8.75 million in increased salaries and benefits. Mr. Speaker, licensing fees were $71 million at the year end, compared to $68.6 million, of which $60.9 million was paid by the insurance sector. Mr. Speaker, board members are paid an annual fee of $26,000, up from $20,000 the prior year. Board subcommittee chairs are paid an annual fee of $33,000, up from $25,000 the prior year. And the chairman of the board receives an annual fee of $96,000, up from $75,000 the previous year. Yes, Cole, more than you. Mr. Speaker, here's a figure that many will be interested to hear. The CEO's salary is set at $500,000, no change, and the CEO is eligible for performance-based bonus of up to 50% of base salaries. The salaries of the other 14 members of the executive team range from $253,000 to $450,000 in 2022, with the performance bonuses up to $37,000. With a performance bonus of up to 37% of salary, and this has changed from in the prior year, where it was up to 35% of the total salary. And of course, Mr. Speaker, you will note that even the lowest range of the executive of the BMA is paid more than the Minister of Finance and the Premier of the country.
Yes.
Just an important point.
Yes, it is.
Moving on to fines, penalty. Well, Mr. Speaker, we like to talk about salaries and wages around here a lot. So, I thought it would be interesting for all members to note. The opposition will certainly go there later today, I have no doubt. Moving on, Mr. Speaker, to fines, penalties, and other income. Mr. Speaker, revenue from fines, penalties, and other income also grew by $1.69 million due to increased anti-money laundering fines, insurance fines, and trusts and corporate service provider fines. Mr. Speaker, in reviewing the authority's financial statements, the Auditor General has issued a clean opinion. Mr. Speaker, before I close, I know that many persons will take note of the increase in salaries. The Bermuda Monetary Authority is a very important institution in this country. They must make sure they maintain the highest level of quality, and they must continue to fend off against other companies and other countries who are trying to poach the regulators who make this industry so successful. And so what I would say, Mr. Speaker, is I wish to extend my sincere thanks to the board of the authority who served and continue to serve this complex sector. A special thank you to the executive of the authority, who, in my opinion, Mr. Speaker, are worth every penny of which they are paid because they continue to do excellent work inside of this jurisdiction. And I want to thank them for their contribution into the maintenance and growth of the financial services sector, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank all of them for their continued work as Bermuda continues to lead the way in financial services regulation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I thank you, Premier, and I would think that the House would endorse those comments about the staff at the monetary. There appear to be no reports from committees. There is questions for Minister Birch. There are 3 questions, and then after that, there's questions for Minister Rebane. Minister, pardon? Yeah, you're right. And these questions are from Cole Simons. Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Mm.
Will the Honorable Minister please confirm for this Honorable House the total capital development amount paid to date from inception for the infrastructure currently in place as a result of the initial development of the Grand Atlantic Housing Development Project and the development of the Bermudiana Beach Resort Project combined, including any project conversion costs? Thank you.
Colonel Birch.
Mr. Speaker, it is my intent to provide full background to the questions asked, so there is a complete understanding of the history of this project, decisions made, the funds expended, but also the expectation that those funds will be recouped. So the answer to the first question, Mr. Speaker, is the total capital development amount paid to date from inception for the infrastructure currently in place as a result of the initial development of the Grand Atlantic Housing Development Project and the development of the Bermudiana Beach Resort Project combined, including any project conversion costs, is $64,077,146, of which $42,028,370 relates to the development and acquisition of the 78 condo units at Grand Atlantic 12 years ago, and $22,048,776 for the development of the Bermudiana Beach Resort. The 78 condo units at Grand Atlantic were originally part of the 2007 Grand Atlantic Resort and Residences project, which was a private sector project. The Bermuda Housing Corporation BHC involvement began in 2009, and the construction began on 78 condo units in 2010 and were completed in 2012. The sales process for condo units has spanned several governments and ministers over the years and has faced many challenges since inception, including a difficult economic climate, decline in housing prices, decline in demand for housing, and a false narrative over the safety of the cliffs, to name a few. In 2013, the sale of units were placed on hold indefinitely by the then government, while options for the property were considered. A request for information, RFI, on the property was issued in March 2013, with submissions due by May 2013. After analysis, meetings, and review of the submissions, and a memorandum of understanding was entered into with the selected proposal to convert the property into a condo hotel. The MOU was initially for a period of 120 days and was then extended to March 2015. After the expiration of this MOU, the BHC negotiated with the bank to obtain a term loan for $36 million to refinance the short-term loan used for the original purchase of the Grand Atlantic condo units. Also in 2015, BHC was asked to rent a portion of the property on a short-term basis for the 2015 America's Cup World Series event. The property was rented for this event, and a request for proposal for the property was drafted and issued in May 2016, with submissions due by the end of June 2016. After analysis, meetings, and review of the submissions, a proposal was selected and approved in October 2016. BHC was again asked to rent the property for the America's Cup event till July 2017. In July 2017, an election was held which resulted in a change of government. The new government continued negotiations with the selected co-developer party, who were approved by the previous government to develop a condo hotel on the Grand Atlantic site. There were several steps involved in moving forward with this proposal, including approval of plans by the Planning, Health, Fire, Environment departments, and as well as consultation with other related government departments such as tourism, amendments to the BHC Act, creation of subsidiary companies, applications and approvals of tourism investment orders, which will be coming to this house soon. Once this process was completed, an agreement was signed on August 22nd, 2019 between the government and the co-developer parties. The co-developer set up the sales office and began the sales process. Furniture and fixtures for the first 4 blocks were ordered at that time, and construction of the elevator shafts on blocks A and D commenced, along with the condo configuration for the 4 model rooms. In early 2020, the COVID pandemic started to take hold on the world, which made meeting sales targets challenging. The pandemic resulted in sales targets not being reached to meet debt financing conditions, and therefore an alternative financing facility was negotiated with the bank. In June of 2021, a new $10 million loan facility was agreed. With the new financing in place, there was a need for a new co-developer agreement to be negotiated and signed. During the course of negotiations, the parties agreed to an amicable separation agreement. The government is committed to the completion of this project, as there is a direct correlation between available hotel beds and airlift. The shortage of hotel beds has resulted in a decline in the number of flights. This project will also result in increasing employment during construction in the short term and employment in the hotel in the longer term. Revised plans were drafted and submitted to planning in March 2022 and were approved late July 2022. Application for building permits was submitted in 3 phases. Phase 1, which covers the reception building and wastewater treatment plant, were issued in December 2022. Phase 2, which covers the new restaurant, bar, meeting room, spa, gym, and back of house, were also issued in December 2022. And Phase 3, which covers the pool, pool deck, pool bar, and grill, stairs to the beach, and elevator, and were issued in March 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Simons, second question. Supplementary.
The minister indicated that there was a co-development agreement. My question is this: is there an infusion of capital by the Hilton group of companies, and are they the partner in the co-development agreement?
Mr. Speaker, no, there's no financial involvement by Hilton, and yes, they are the co-developer in the agreement.
Thank you. Simons.
Thank you. Supplemental.
Mhm.
Is there a lease in place between BHC and the management company? And if there is, can you provide the summary details?
Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure that there is no lease in place with anyone, actually. The property is owned by Bermuda Development Company Limited, which is a subsidiary of the Bermuda Housing Corporation.
Your second question? Hmm.
Will the Honorable Minister please provide for this Honorable House the details of the expected sovereign guarantee increase required to satisfy the $29 million loan facility currently in place for the benefit of the Bermudiana Beach Resort project, as the current guarantee stands at $10 million.
Mr. Speaker, there is no $29 million loan facility currently in place. There is a $10 million facility which is sovereign guarantee as indicated by the question. An additional construction loan of $25 million is in the process of being finalized to complete this project. Once finalized, it will be reported to this House as required by law. Thank you.
Okay, I have no supplemental on that.
Okay, your third question.
Will the Honorable Minister please confirm for this Honorable House the details of the work currently outstanding on the Bermuda Beach Resort project and the estimated remaining costs to bring this new hotel development project to a completion, including all of its amenity costs? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker,
Mhm.
the estimated remaining cost to bring the new hotel development project to completion, including all of its amenities, is $28,280,510. Of this remaining cost, $19,682,510 is for construction, and $8,598,000 is for furniture, fixtures, equipment, and other related costs. In order to convert the property into a hotel that meets Hilton standards, a number of upgrades and modifications were needed. These include items such as electrical upgrades, backup power generation, upgrades to water and wastewater systems, environmental controls, amenity areas, safety and security systems. Electrical upgrades required the site to be converted to three-phase electrical from single-phase. To accomplish this, it required the replacement of all Balco lines and related infrastructure, in addition to new automatic transfer switch rooms to accommodate the increase in load requirements. All units were required to be rewired with three-phase electrical wiring. To accommodate changes in technology for electric vehicles, upgrades were required in the parking lots in order to provide charging stations. A key requirement by Hilton is to have backup power generation. This required the purchase of 2 generators, each linked to one of the ATS rooms. In order to accommodate the telecommunication, connectivity, and security requirements, additional modifications and wiring were required in all rooms and amenity spaces. The conversion of the property from a residential to a tourism property required upgrades to the water and wastewater systems. The average water consumption per person in a residential unit is approximately 35 gallons, whereas the average use for a hotel is approximately 100 gallons per person. This required upgrades to the water heaters and pumps to accommodate the increased usage by hotel guests and maintain consistent temperature and pressure. The anticipated increase in wastewater resulted in the need to increase the size of the wastewater treatment plant, not only for the guests in the rooms, but also for other services in the restaurant, spa, pool area, and so on. In order to meet guests' expectations, as part of Hilton standards, rooms must maintain a certain level of environmental controls relating to heating, cooling, water temperature, etc. As such, each room is connected to a metering system to monitor and maintain these controls on an ongoing basis. In converting the residential rooms into hotel accommodation, modifications were necessary for the buildings. These items include elevators for each block, additional handrails to the stairways, upgraded fire suppression systems, additional washrooms in both room and public areas, disability access, creation of 2 ADA-compliant rooms, sidewalks and pedestrian walkways, and installation of CCTV systems and other safety items such as access control points. Conversion to a hotel requires the addition of several amenity areas. A reception and administration area was required in addition to the IT and telecommunication area, storage, and restrooms. In order to accommodate these functions, a new 2-story reception building was needed including a covered area for arriving and departing guests. The northernmost residential building is being converted into a restaurant, bar, lounge, meeting room, spa, gym, and back-of-house areas. These amenities are a key part of the operations of the hotel. In order for the restaurant to meet the standards of the hotel and building regulations, a new wing has to be added to the building. On the southeast of the property, a large pool deck, bar, and grill will be built for the enjoyment of guests staying at the hotel. Added to this is the construction of stairs and an elevator giving direct access to the beach. Bermuda Beach Resort will be able to accommodate close to 500 persons, as such group business will play a key role in the success of the hotel. One important amenity is the support kitchen and washrooms adjacent to the events lawn, which will provide the venue and services for large functions such as weddings, receptions, cocktail functions, barbecue, and other large gatherings. Hilton Hotels is one of the leading players in the group business segment. As a result of the change in use of the property, as well as the additional buildings and amenities, several areas on the property require significant modifications to the landscape to reflect the natural beauty of Bermuda, as well as to provide privacy and shade for the guests. A comprehensive landscape plan was designed and submitted to planning for approval. These items include additional endemic trees and plants, other architectural features such as the Bermuda Moon Gate and relaxation area. The Housing Corporation has a construction management contract with the contractor BCM Construction Limited. It consists of the construction management of the redevelopment of Bermuda Beach Resort and new construction of the following, and refers to a client budget dated 22nd of April 2022. So one is residential blocks A, B, D, E, F, G, H, and J, which is 8 blocks. Block C, which is the spa and restaurant and gym meeting rooms and back of house. 3, the sewage treatment plant. 4, the generators. 5, the swimming pool. 6, the reception and entry building. 7, the beach access stair and elevator shaft. 8, the events lawn building. And 9, landscaping and site works. If the work is modified by the owner for any other reason outside of the construction manager's control, construction manager shall be entitled to payment for all costs plus additional overhead and profit associated with the resulting change in the work. Some of the items which would cause changes increase in cost on material such as cement and block, upgrade of systems to meet Hilton standards, site conditions, instructions from planning to add or change items, and other such issues. Brunel Engineering have been contracted to manage the project and review all invoices and tenders and sign off on the monthly application and certificate for payment, which is then presented to the board of the Bermuda Housing Corporation for approval. Both the board and the ministry believe that this partnership with Hilton Hotels will not only prove to be a welcome addition to the tourism inventory, but also a profitable investment for those purchasing the condos and the Bermudian taxpayer, who will eventually see every dollar spent on this project repaid. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Simons.
Thank you. Can the minister please confirm to this honorable House the cost to deliver on the requirements prescribed by the Hilton Group of Hotels to have this hotel up and running at their standards?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if the opposition leader could repeat the last part of his question.
Yes.
Can the minister please confirm to this honorable House the cost of the requirements prescribed by the Hilton Group of Companies to ensure that the hotel meets their standards?
Mr. Speaker, that would be the figure that I used at the beginning of the answer to question number 3. That would be 28,280, 28 million $280,510. That's split $19,682,510 for construction and $8,598,000 for furniture, fixtures, equipment, and other related costs. And I might add, Mr. Speaker, that Hilton are regularly on the island and meeting virtually in relation to this project, and have been intimately involved in every aspect of it, including the approval of the wording of the actual purchase and sales agreements, which has been an exercise in and of itself. Thank you.
Any, Mr. Dunkley?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. To the Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister has mentioned the arrangement with Hilton, and with this $100 million project, the minister said that the taxpayer would be repaid in full. How is the minister assured that the taxpayer will be repaid in full?
Mr. Speaker, the hotel is going to be a success and going to make a profit, and the Bermuda Development Company Limited, the subsidiary of the Bermuda Housing Corporation, will reap some of those benefits, and they will inure to the benefit of the Bermudian taxpayer.
Thank you. Mr. Dunkley, another?
Yes, second supplementary. Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honorable Minister for that. The Bermuda Housing Corporation will reap some of those benefits. What is the financial arrangement between the Bermuda Housing Corporation and the Hilton operation?
Mr. Speaker, I don't have that information to hand, but I will undertake to provide it.
Thank you, Minister. Any further? Mr. Simons? Second supplementary?
Second supplementary, no. Okay, let's see how I can combine these two. Can the minister confirm the details and cost of the advertising campaign for the 2024 suggested opening date of the hotel?
Mr. Speaker, I don't have that information either,
Okay.
but I will give it undertaken to provide it ideally today.
Thank you, Minister. Brother Pearman?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker, and good morning. Supplemental to the response given by the Honorable Mr. Colonel Birch, you indicated in the amenities that would be available, the events lawn. I'd understood that that was still subject to planning permission and that planning had recommended against. Has that been approved, or when will it be approved, and by whom?
Mr. Speaker, I did not mention the events lawn. I mentioned the events lawn building, and I talked about the work that has been taking place with that. With regard to the events lawn itself, that is currently on appeal to the minister responsible for the environment. And in fact, whilst that appeal has been going on, we have amended the application to withdraw the aspect of the parking lot, which was a significant irritation, I'll say, to those who like trees. But I accepted that there was some confusion. There was some confusion in the application to planning in that there were two parking lots referred to. We were unaware of the second parking lot and could not figure out how planning were talking about two parking lots. But suffice to say that we have accepted that we can use the parking lot that is currently in place with some enhancement. And so the minister has been advised in writing that the Bermudiana Beach Resort are withdrawing that part of the application for a parking lot.
Thank you. There are no further questions. There is some questions from Mr. MP Kenner to the Minister of Tourism. Mr. Kenner. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. Questions for Minister Raban. Rebane. I- Yeah, you're speeding. Jackson?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and good morning, everyone. My question to the Education Minister is this. Can the minister provide details on the school location strategy assessment team? Who were the members and how were they selected?
Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Though the question received was slightly different, it's still relatively same. Mr. Speaker, the parish primary school location strategy team was selected from government technical officers with extensive skills and knowledge regarding education and school facilities, along with a representative from the Office of Project Management and Procurement. The team comprised of the Permanent Secretary of Education, Commissioner of Education, the Comptroller of Education, Facilities Manager, Department of Education, Senior Estate Surveyor, Department of Parks, Lands, and Buildings, Building Manager, the Ministry of Public Works, and a Quantity Surveyor from the Office of Project Management and Procurement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further? Mr. Jackson?
My question to the minister then is, if these
This
were,
is-
if the,
This is a supplementary or second question?
this is supplementary.
Okay.
If the school location strategy team was made up of Bermudians, can you please explain then what the role of the, I think it was called Santec consultancy was all about then?
Mr. Speaker, Stantec is the name that she's referring to. Had nothing to do with the school location team. This, the school location team did their work in 2020.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
My second supplementary then is, was there any local company that helped with the school strategy assessment team and the matrix that was set out for them?
Mr. Speaker,
Mhm.
no.
My second question, Deputy Speaker.
Continue.
Can the minister please provide the dates each school was assessed and if the entire team took part in the on-site assessments?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there were no scheduled dates for school building assessments during the assessment period. The team used their hands-on experience and working knowledge of the current state of the school facilities and access to school building records outlining the maintenance, upgrades, building plans, etc., spanning over several decades.
Anything further, Ms. Jackson?
Yes, I have a supplementary then. I'm just curious then. So the assessment team, I'm just clarifying, was a roundtable exercise by the sounds of it. So then there was no actual on-site visit. If the minister can confirm that there were no on-site visits and that principals were not consulted at all about any renovation or changes or anything going on at the school, it was all just a paper exercise?
Mr. Speaker, this exercise, Mr. Speaker, I do want to stress that the team that did the assessments have several decades of intimate knowledge of what is happening, what has happened within the school. There was no need for any local or overseas entities to assist them with this process. This team is responsible for the maintenance of every single school in Bermuda, and hence their local knowledge of what is intimately within the school. This particular process did not explore what renovations inside the school needed to happen. It was an evaluation of the current facilities, and the team did that based on their immense knowledge of what the actual buildings were and the conditions that the buildings were in.
Jackson? Third question?
Third question, thank you.
Okay.
Can the minister please provide the details of each assessment, including how the numbers were produced for each school, and if there has been an independent scrutiny of these scores?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Parish Primary School Location Strategy Team determined 4 broad study factors of categories that were identified as most critical for determining the best building location for future primary schools. The 4 broad study factors included existing building conditions, land property conditions, safety and health, and transportation. A structured process was followed that comprised of reviewing study factors, including international standards extracted from the UK Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, the Royal Institute of British Architects, professional standards pertaining to land, property, and buildings, the whole building design guides for elementary schools, the preventative maintenance guides, best practices for maintaining efficient and sustainable buildings, and the December 2015 School Reorganization Advisory Report, otherwise known as the School Report, the report that was done under the previous administration on the facilities of our schools. Of the study factors used from the school report, 2 were relevant for determining which building location sites would best for the placement of transformative 21st century primary schools. These were safety and health and transportation. While it was determined in 2020, some of the safety and health issues listed in the school report might have been dealt with since that report was issued in 2015. It was deemed that generally safety and health should remain a priority. For example, with regard to safety and accessibility, the school facilities, including washrooms, staircases, and outdoor areas that needed to be safe, easily monitored, and accessible for children. For transportation, students have reasonable access to transportation to and from schools in their designated zone and for minimum traffic congestion. Each of the 4 broad study factors were weighted based on their level of importance. The condition of the site, the property site, and safety and health were both ranked as most important on deciding the most suitable location for a 21st century learning facility and were weighted at 30% each. The existing building and transportation access were rated second with a weighting of 20% each. The higher the weighted score for a school, the more favorable the building site was for locating a primary school that met the requirements for a system vision for 21st century learning facility. These factors impacting student achievement include, but are not limited to, a student's personal factors, interaction with others, and other systems around them, such as school systems, their neighborhood, the economy, political policy, and multicultural relations. Mr. Speaker, the quantity surveyor from the Office of Project Management and Procurement ensured the assessment was conducted in accordance with the agreed study factors and evaluation framework and was utilized as the independent reviewer of the matrix that was developed and utilized.
Thank you. Any further, Ms. Jackson?
No, Deputy Speaker, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. There are questions for the Premier.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker, when we had the question period last sitting on the 19th of May, 2023, the Honorable Speaker confirmed that the Premier had made a commitment to this House to respond to a specific question and provide information, namely the date on which his fintech advisor went from being a paid advisor to an unpaid advisor. That answer remains outstanding. We'd be grateful to have it when convenient. Thank you.
Mr. Acting Speaker, I'll provide that information no later than the end of today's session.
Thank you.
I thank the Honorable Premier and thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.
Mr. Simons, you had a question concerning the minister's statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, can the Premier or Minister of Finance address this question? As a British overseas territory, how did we have the ability to participate in and contribute to the Bank of International Settlement and the OECD's Insurance Pension Committee? And what were our recent contributions?
Mr. Speaker, I cannot necessarily speak to the specific recent contributions that may have been made. But what I can state is that these bodies are international standard setting bodies. And our participation is due to the fact that our regulator is recognized as a financial services regulator, and that's why our participation occurs within them. So when we talk about the OECD, these are bodies that are set up by the OECD. This is not actually participation directly, of course, within the matters of the OECD, but sub bodies which are set up to coordinate matters and to allow persons to exchange information, exchange ideas. And regarding the IAIS, of course, we are a well-known insurance supervisor, and so we try to make sure that we have leadership positions on those various bodies and boards, and that falls in the BMA, which is a recognized financial services regulator, not under the government of Bermuda, of course, which is not an internationally recognized body.
Yes. Any further questions, Mr. Simons? Supplementary?
Supplementary, and then a second question. Supplementary, is there any pending legislation outstanding against the BMA? And if he has any details, can you share them with us?
Legislation against this?
So, sorry, litigation. Sorry, litigation. Litigation.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, none to my knowledge.
It's not in the statement.
I mean, if the minister wants to send a direct question, the shadow leader wants to send a direct question, I'll seek to try to get the information, but none to my knowledge.
Mr. Simons?
Thank you. My second question. The capital, equity market capital of the BSX reduced by 49.7%. It went from 334 billion in 2021 to 166 billion in 2022. Can the finance minister provide an explanation for this dramatic downturn? Thank you.
Premier?
Mr. Speaker, there could be a number of reasons for those changes. It could be decline of market values. You have to remember that 2022 was a reasonably turbulent year, marked by an invasion, a war, economic turmoil, and different items. But insofar as the specific information of which the member seeks, if he wants to write to me, I can seek to try to make sure I can get those specific answers of which he's talking about. I'm not entirely certain if the report itself may detail those figures, but I will do my best to try to seek the information which he's trying to get a hold of. But there's a number of various things, and of course, the honorable member could also contact the BSX directly.
Mr. Simons?
Thank you. I would ask that the Premier give the House undertaking that he would get that information, because that way he'll get it for sure. We'll get it for
What's your
sure.
next question, Mr. Simons?
Mr. Deputy, I have no further questions.
There are one more question, questions from MP Kenner to the Minister of Tourism. Campbell.
Good morning, Deputy Speaker, Acting Speaker, and colleagues. First, let me just say congratulations to the Minister and the BTA on this track meet. It was fantastic. So I did want to congratulate the Minister and the teamwork that took place. And so my first question is, with this partnership with the BTA and the Puma, is it the Puma League, American Puma League, for this particular meet, does he have an idea of the outlay to this for this track meet for the BTA?
Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Speaker, that information is still being compiled.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Acting Speaker. And the reason I asked the question, supplementary, I should say. Sorry, supplementary. I'm asking the question because I'd like for Bermuda to see the benefit and things like this. I know that a lot of young people attended the particular track meet. And so with the Athene Fastest Kid on the Rock, the run, jump, throw clinic, can the minister tell us a little more or give us a little more idea about how that's going to transpire into? It did get a lot of kids out, I must say. But what is the program that is in place that's going to help bring our kids along into being senior members of Puma maybe and the likes? Paces?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, having the international athletes along with our elite athletes participate in such events piques the interest of our young up-and-coming athletes and encourages them to continue with the athletics endeavors. And it's up to our local clubs to continue to nurture and develop that talent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further questions? There ends the question period. The next order of business is congrats and obits. Any, Chair recognizes the Honorable Kim Swan.
Yes, good day, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker, I would just like to echo and be associated with a ministerial statement earlier by the Minister of Works, congratulating both the Ministry of Works and the Corporation of St. George's and Mr. Mark Soers with the St. George's Marina Development. The yachting trade in Bermuda has for a long time provided great revenue for the great town and with the marina. Certainly as I dine around, I see a lot of participation in restaurants from persons coming off of yachts. Brings me to mind of the time in the Fletcher used to spend its whole summer in St. George's Harbor. So congratulations to that. I was unable to be in attendance because I was ensuring that I met a quorum at a BTA board meeting
Well,
at that.
that's
at
not
same-
congrats.
Thank you. Well, I'm congratulating and
Thank you.
apologizing for not being there at that time. I also like to congratulate the organizers of the Bermuda Day Parade for the decision to make sure that the show did go on. I was there in an official capacity, notwithstanding the weather. It was an outstanding day. And I know I speak for all who participated and all who had to make sure that the event went on, that the end result made many happy. And it was shown by the beautiful collage of pictures that have been captured. I want to associate MP Fogo, who was a proud grandparent running around the parade, chasing after her young ones with the St. George's dancerettes. And she was seen dancing as well. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I saw in the newspaper that a long-standing civil servant is retiring, Mr. Rochester, who I've known for many, many, many years. And his story, I'm sure, will be told in the months to come of how he started off very humbly in government in the early 80s and rose to that of a permanent secretary. And I know that my neighbor, the late Herman Baisden, if he was still with us, he passed away this year, would be very proud of this young man's progress and how he's going to move on into the private sector and take his talents and continue on. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chair recognizes the Honorable Jamal Simmons.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to add my name to the list of congratulations to the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Randy Rochester, who has served the government and the country impeccably over his many years of service. I'd also like to send congratulations to the Bermuda Nurses Association, and particularly their president, Karen Simmons. Declare my interest as my late cousin's wife. Had a very successful Bermuda Nurses Association month, and the Honorable Kim Swan would like to be associated. I'd like to also offer congratulations to Mr. Trevor Lindsay for continuing to provide an alternative to the mainstream and often biased media, and other members wish to be associated as well. On a sad note, finishing on a sad note, I'd like to send condolences to the family of Mr. Kelton Crockwell, who passed this week on the heels of his sister dying a few months ago. So it's been a very rough month for the Crockwell family, couple of months. Condolences to the family of Mr. Cyril James Elliott Rayner, a constituent of mine of long standing, and his family mourns him deeply. And I'd finally like to wish a speedy recovery to the brother of a former PLP candidate, Mr. Neville Darrell. His brother, Mr. David Darrell, is in the hospital suffering, and wish him a speedy and quick recovery. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the Honorable Premier Burke.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker, I would like to be associated with remarks from the honorable member from constituency number 2 in regards to the organization of the Bermuda Day Parade, and also in regards to the congratulations on the retirement from the public service, certainly to Mr. Rochester. What I would known, of course, Mr. Rochester for a while, he used to be my boss in another time. And so it's, these are how role reversal sometimes happens, but I wish him the best in his endeavors. On a sadder note, Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask that this honorable House do send a letter of condolence to the family of the late Edgar Donnelly, better known as Donnie Bean. He's the son of Alfred and Winfred Bean, and one of my constituents, of course, Mr. Speaker, and loving father to Danica and Danielle Bean. And I would just like to, he was in his 67th year. He passed away, and I would just ask that the Honorable House do send a letter of condolence to his family on his passing. And of course, Mr. Speaker, I will be visiting with the family.
The chair recognizes the Honorable Wayne Keynes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to acknowledge the birthday of a local icon, a man who has given his life in service for Bermuda, Carlton Pappy Deal. Yesterday was his 80th birthday. 80th birthday. This is a man that you can't say his name without smiling. He is a football legend in Bermuda. He played for the Young Men's Social Club. He also played and coached at the Devonshire Colts. He led Bermuda to a number in different capacities, FA Cup champions and friendly and Dudley. He has had and been a part of every cup that we've had in Bermuda. He was the first Bermudian to play for the North American Soccer League, for the Houston All-Stars and the Dallas Tornadoes. He was the first Bermudian to get a full badge coaching certificate in the United Kingdom. He was also a FIFA certified coach and instructor. He played on the Bermuda Pan American team, Mr. Acting Speaker, that got a silver medal. He also served, many people do not know this, he was a probation officer for a number of years. Stayed active in our community, active member of the Progressive Labor Party, traversing the hills with a number of the candidates in his constituency. He and his wife Valerie are loving family members to their grandchildren. I live next to them, Mr. Speaker, and last night to late in the night, you can hear his grandchildren, everyone playing and supporting, even in the rain, celebrating this great Bermudian icon. I have seen a number of my colleagues have raised their hands for us to be associated with the celebration of this great Bermudian,
the
whole house,
Yeah.
celebrating the 80th birthday of Mr. Pappy Deal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Deal was also a cricketer, Mr.
Oh, I didn't know that. He's a cricketer.
Played for Devonshire Rag.
I didn't know that.
Good cricketer. Yeah. The chair recognizes the Honorable Zane De Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to, first of all, let the public know that the only reason that the Honorable Member Wayne Keynes talked about Pappy Deal is because you chose him over me first. I'd like to be associated with all the things that my honorable colleague said, Mr. Acting Speaker. But what I'd like to congratulate him on is not only attaining the age of 80, but as my colleague said very briefly about him traveling the hills of Bermuda. Well, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Carlton Pappy Deal was probably one of the last people on the
a branch of a constituency 30 at the time to accept me as a candidate. But when we finally did get together, Mr. Acting Speaker, we were inseparable. We were inseparable. We were inseparable. And I can say this, is Carlton Pepe Deal taught me a lot. I did listen. Unlike when I was in school with you, Mr. Dunkley, I did listen to Carlton Pepe Deal.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. It's misleading the House. I was never in school with the honorable member.
Oh, well,
For the record, I want that to state.
Bro, you're my builder then,
See,
Jim.
the honorable member mistook educational school from this school. And I'm talking about the political school. Okay? So, but anyway, the honorable member quick to jump to his feet. He's becoming the chief interpolator around here. Chirpulator, that's right, chirpulator.
Let's stay
But
on our
Mr.
bids
But Mr.
and
Speaker, let me
digress.
say this, that in all sincerity, he is a very respected man in this country, and I respect him, and I always will. And again, as Honorable Member Wayne Keynes mentioned, his wife, she's the rock beside Pepe Deal, and she has been with him the entire way. So I would like to again congratulate him for making that milestone 80th mark, and I know he enjoyed it. I spoke to him. One thing I did do, I'm sure I spoke to him before Mr. Keynes did on his birthday, because I called him 6:45 in the morning. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, thank you for the time.
Thank you. Any further speakers? The chair recognizes the Honorable Levita Fugard.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I have two congratulatory remarks. One for Hamilton Princess, having made the top list in the Caribbean section for the best of the best hotels. So I just thought that that's something worthy of mention. But more important to me, I would like to congratulate East End Primary and St. George's Preparatory Schools and I would like to associate the Honorable Kim Swan for their parade that was supposed to take place the Wednesday before the parade on Friday. However, it took place on Monday. It was absolutely spectacular. And the whole of the Eastern area was thrilled with their production. They had every section of what takes place on the Bermuda Parade Day covered in their rendition of the Bermuda Parade. It was absolutely fabulous. And as I said, many St. Georgian residents and even tourists were out watching this event, which took place on Monday of this week. So kudos to them, Mr. Acting Speaker, because it was spectacular. I'd also associate you. You live in the East, you live in the best part of Bermuda.
Well,
and so let me associate you as well.
thank you. Thank you.
And I would like to associate the Minister of Education with that. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the Honorable Dennis Lister III.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I just have one congratulatory remark today, and we can see in the absence of the Speaker, as his next Tuesday, it's his 65th birthday. So I'd like to send congratulations to the Speaker and I associate the whole House. He's going 65, and I dare say he spent half of his life in this House. He was elected. I will say this, he did tell me he had to go pick up his blue card last week. Blue card, his special card. But Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, yes, Mr. Speaker has actually spent half his life in this House. So it goes to show his dedication he has for serving not just the party, but the country of Bermuda. And so again, I'd just like to send congratulations on half of this whole House to the Speaker on his 65th birthday next Tuesday.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the Honorable Minister Weeks.
Morning, Mr. Acting Speaker. Mr. Acting Speaker, I'd like to start off my congratulatory remarks by associating myself with the congratulatory remarks for Randy Rochester.
Mhm.
Randy Rochester and I have a special kind of relationship. I know when I first came a minister, I was obviously being green, and he was a brand new PS. So we grew. But KLP is green anyway, so I would take that. We were knew both in our worlds,
Congratulations.
and we kind of grew together. So that created a bond that I think we'd always have. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to associate myself with the remarks for Carlton Pepe Dill. He's one of my family members, older cousin, so he was always a shining light for the family. I could never emulate his athletic ability, but he was always a good.
Well, we all
He was
know
always a
that.
good. He was always a good role model for myself and other members of my family. Mr. Speaker, I saved this one for last because yesterday I witnessed with some of my other colleagues, my political colleague and my neighbor. We had a press conference and he announced the minimum wage.
Mm.
That's a milestone for Bermuda, and I think we all should acknowledge that because that's not something that can be taken lightly. You know, there's a lot of work that went into that, and I was glad I was there to see that. You know, and I would like to acknowledge, I would like to associate the whole House with the courage that is taken and the resilience that he ran through in order to get across the line. And I think it's a first step in making sure that our workers, you know, are not mistreated and taken care of fairly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The chair to recognize the Honorable Ms. Wade Simmons Wade.
No, it's on. I was just trying to say, good morning. I'd like to send congratulations to my nephew, Jonathan Simmons. Last month, Jonathan graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy. He has a degree in physics. He also was the vice president of the Black Engineering Students Association. Many of you may not be aware, but the U.S. Naval Academy is the second most difficult naval academy to get into in the United States. They have an 8.5% acceptance rate. You have to have an SAT score of 1200 or 1245. At age 15, Jonathan also received his third degree black belt. He has now been accepted into the Navy pilot program in which he wants to be a fighter pilot. He is a true example of a young man showing commitment and dedication to reach his goal. He will leave as a second lieutenant. Congratulations to my nephew, Jonathan. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Minister Rabane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to first be associated with the comments for Mr. Cyril Rayner. It was a tremendous loss hearing of his passing this earlier Tuesday. I know that many of us know about ENC drilling and the Rayners from Somerset. It's especially hurtful as I'm very good friends with his daughter, Cirilla. And of course, Mr. Speaker, you would know his son, Dow Hollis, a very famous spinner from one of the few people who played Tony Cup for two teams, I think.
No, he only played for one team.
He only played for Cleveland County. Yes.
No, he played for St. Davis.
No, he played for Cleveland County too.
He played County Cup for St. Davis. You can only play one county cup in the eastern counties. He's from Harris's Bay.
He's from Harris's Bay, and he has played for Cleveland, but he played for St. Davis.
I got it right now.
All right, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like condolences sent to the family of Helen Benjamin of Loyal Hill. She was considered the grandmother of Loyal Hill. She passed on her 90th year. She had only recently celebrated her 89th birthday, and the celebration was quite a well-attended one at the First Church of God on North Shore. I will associate MP Michael Dunkley with that condolences as well. The family on Loyal Hill is still suffering. Whenever I would canvass, she would always be sitting in her kitchen, and it was no surprise that in the obituary, they talked about her always being in her kitchen. But she would always be in the kitchen, or she'd be sitting outside. She never ventured far from her place, but she was always there. Mr. Speaker, I also like to send, on a happier note, I'd like to send congratulations to the Loyal Hill community for putting on their annual Bermuda Day parade that happened the Sunday before Bermuda Day. The usual festive facilities up there. It's something that came out of the COVID era when we did cancel the Bermuda Day holiday that year. They got together and did one, and it's kind of carried on from then. We had the usual floats, the Mr. and Mrs. Loyal Hill. Congratulations to Mr. Henry Ascento and June Keynes for being Mr. and Mrs. Loyal Hill. And of course, the exciting go-kart race that took place coming off the hill. The old-fashioned go-karts, I don't know if you remember them, you know, the little wooden rinky-dink things you put together with the strings to steer. And so it was an exciting family event that went on for a good 3 or 4 hours on that afternoon. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like congratulations, and I'm going to associate the whole House with this, Mr. Speaker. I would like to say congratulations to the Education Reform Unit and their recent signing of MOUs as we expand our offerings to our students within the public school system at the signature level. And so we've recently signed MOUs with BIOS, BUEI, BAMS, KPMG, and ABIC. And I do realize that there are a couple of them coming up. I don't want to preempt by naming them, but there will be a few more companies as more and more persons gravitate to what's happening in education reform and join in making sure that our children get the relevant experience and knowledge prior to them leaving our system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the Honorable Tyrrell.
Thank you, Mrs. Acting Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. Mr. Acting Speaker, let me start off on a somber note and ask that condolences be sent to the family of the late Amintha Gwendolyn Swan of Cabo Heights Lane in Warwick. Ms. Swan obviously was a constituent of mine and was very popular in the area. She was the widow of William Swan, and they both lived a very full life and is recognized in the fact that they had 3 lovely kids, Edward, William, Gina, and specifically Gina, who spent, I think, most of the last year and a half or more, never left her mother's side almost, and they produced many, Ms. Swan and her husband produced many, had a hand obviously in producing many grands and great-grands. She lived a very long life. She celebrated, in fact, I called her a few weeks ago for her 95th, so she was obviously in her 96th year. And as I said, she lived a full life, and I ask that condolences be sent to the family. On a more brighter note, Mr. Acting Speaker, I would like to be associated with 2 persons who have already been mentioned. The first one was P.S. Randy Rochester. Let me say that P.S., even though I always have the ear of the minister, P.S. Randy Rochester was my go-to person for any thing I had concerning a constituent in my area, and was always very helpful. And so I wish him well in his next role of his life. And I also want to be associated with the remarks of Carlton Pepe Dill. Mr. Dill and I go way back when I was in my football administration years. He, as mentioned, had been a coach for the BFA and took away many successful teams. And I had the privilege of actually traveling with him at one time and his team, and I watched how he handled, so he got the best out of people, and that's the sort of person he was in life. He really got the best out of people, so I wish him well in his 80th birthday. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The chair recognizes Honorable Michael Dunkley.
You got eyes in the top of your head, Mr. Deputy Speaker. You didn't even look up. Appreciate that. I'd like to also be associated with the best wishes and congratulations to P.S. Rochester. Having had the pleasure and the opportunity to be a minister and the premier of this country, and I'm sure all cabinet ministers are well aware that you contact your PS on a regular basis quite often at the end of working hours. Well, PS Rochester was one of those people, if you sent a message, he would always get back to you, no matter what time, day it was. And certainly that that is a very laudable trait. It shows your sincerity and you care about your job. And I'm sure that his next employer is going to benefit from the advice and the experience that he brings there. So thank you for your service. And it's disappointing that the civil service is losing a good person like him, but I'm sure there'll be more to return or come back. I'd like to thank the honorable members for the 80th birthday wishes to Pepe Dill. Mr. Dill is a few years older than me, but when he was in his heyday, I was really bullish about trying to play the best football I could. And I remember the likes of Pepe Dill. You know, Pepe Dill was one of those icons that the Honorable House talked about. But when you reflect back in those days, it's no wonder we did so well overseas, because you had the likes of Sam Cat Newsom and Bubba Daniels, and the list goes on. And they wore very big shoes and put Bermuda on the map. So happy at the 80th. I hope you are healthy and happy for many, many more years of your life. And I would have to congratulate the speaker. That's already been done on his birthday wishes. I knew the speaker was a good man the first day I met him, because he was born in the month of June, and so many good people are born in the month of June, Mr. Speaker. I want to be associated with the congratulations offered to Bermuda Day for a great day in spite of the weather, and certainly specifically to all the participants and the winners in the race, Lamont Marshall and Gail Lindsay for winning. What a race it was. That's one of the real joys I get out of my life is watching the competition, to see that there was still probably over 1,000 runners, with 700 in the main race and 300 or 400 in the relay. Certainly was an awesome race. And I'd like, Mrs. Speaker, to specifically congratulate my daughter, who finished third in the female section 4 months after giving birth to a grandson. Typically amazing. And I've only got 3 minutes, but I guess the last congratulations would be to my brother, who said he was going to run again. And the only picture I saw of him running was somebody took a picture of him from behind. And when I sent it to my brother, he said I was running so fast he couldn't catch me from the front. But Mr. Speaker, congratulations to all the participants and Bermuda today in the parade and in the racing, because it truly shows that we have a great pride and a great culture that we like to continue. And we should acknowledge that, because it was no usual Bermuda Day. The Lord shone above us in his way, and thankful for that. And thank you to the honorable member, Minister Birch, because we've had a vexing issue in my constituency in the junction of Jennings Land and Middle Road. And as a resident, the opposition leader is my constituent. I'm not sure who we vote for, but I tried my hardest to get his vote. But the minister was instrumental in getting the work done to allow that junction to be much safer. And now it's almost finished. We're just waiting on Belco to move the pool, but I'm sure that will be done in the near future. But Minister, with talking about road safety, these little improvements can go a long way to helping our community. I thank the honorable minister for whatever assistance he gave. And thank you to the honorable minister for recognizing me, and the condolences to the Benjamin family. Helen Benjamin was a person who knew everything going on in the area. And even though I represent just across the border, I would always stop by and say hi, because she could share some experience and inspiration. So to her family, may she rest in peace, and may they get comfort from the life she lived. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Any further speakers? The chair recognizes the honorable member, Deputy Premier Raban.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just like to give a congratulations message to the aquarium, the Bermuda Aquarium and Zoo, who opened up a brand new exhibit last night, which I do encourage everyone to go and see, because it does characterize a number of fascinating facts about Bermuda and her natural environment. One of the things I was fascinated by as I was asked to attend the opening was the story of the blight. And there were interesting facts about the blight that I just weren't aware of, that were characterized in that exhibit, that I think we all will be interested to know. But the overall exhibit is excellent. They've converted one of the buildings already on site to house it, and I believe all residents will benefit from going to see it. The other is a congratulations to Miss Lenora Pierman, who celebrated her 100th birthday yesterday. In my constituency at the wonderful and historic Grace Methodist Church, and was well attended by many seniors and others in the community. And so tribute to her reaching the 100-year milestone, her and her family, and there were people from not only locally but overseas in attendance. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy. The chair recognizes the Honorable Vance Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to follow on from MP Fogo, where she congratulated the Fairmont Hamilton Princess, for receiving an award. If I'm correct, this is the second time in the last 12 months they have received international recognition. I also want to mention St. Regis, Rosewood, Tuckers Point, and Cambridge Beaches, who have also in that 12-month period received international recognition. Now, Mr. Speaker, why do I raise this? Because we pass laws and we pass acts in this and bills in this house, and we don't always see a connection. But this is no coincidence that all of these hotels, these 4 hotels, receive some sort of concession on taxes to reinvest into their physical structure. And in the case of St. Regis, to actually build a new hotel that was much needed.
And
So
congrats.
there is a connection to what we do here, and that international recognition leads and lifts Bermuda's profile in the travel and leisure. And so congratulations to the Hamilton Princess and St. Regis, Rosewood, and Cambridge Beaches. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Honorable Cole Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I have a lot to do because I wasn't here the last sitting. First, I'd like to associate myself with the comments made in regards to Mark Soers and the marina development at St. George's. I think that is very admirable and was a long time coming, but I commend them for their efforts. I'd like to associate myself with the comments made in regards to the Bermuda Day Parade and the marathon. To see so many Bermudians out in this torrential rain made a true statement to the community. I'd like to associate myself with my dear work friend, Randy Rochester. He will be a true loss to the civil service. He was special, he was responsive, and he is a flag bearer of excellence when it comes to showing how senior leadership is to be served in government. I'd like to also send my condolences, associate myself with the comments made in regards to Carlton Pappy Deal, Trevor Lindsay. Okay. I send condolences to a friend of mine, Keneal Chocolate Smith. He recently passed. He's from Spring. Honorable Kim Swan wants to be associated with that. He worked for Bermuda Gas. He was the caterer, Image Catering and Image Restaurant at Workman's Club. He was a football player, former goalkeeper at Devonshire Coats. He was a member of the BFA Disciplinary Committee, and he won the Government Sports Citations Award in 2017. We send condolences to his partner, Veronica Harvey, and his daughters, Renee, Crystal, and Natasha, and his sisters and brothers and grandchildren. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'd like to send congratulatory remarks to the recipients of the awards for 2023 for the Spirit of Bermuda. Their Spirit of Bermuda's theme is changing lives, one voyage at a time, over time. Mr. Speaker, it's amazing the work that they do for young people in our school system, but public schools and private schools. They teach them leadership skills, situational awareness, determination, and perseverance. They are doing things that can be emulated in other sports. Mr. Speaker, this gentleman, Dikembe Outerbridge Deal, spoke about his journey. He said he was a troubled child. He got kicked out of school, and Spirit of Bermuda changed his life. I mean, it brought tears to everyone's eyes, including mine, when he spoke about his journey. That at 29 years old, he has a daughter, and he said, "This has put me on the right track so I can model the behavior of a Black man to my daughter." And when my daughter is old enough to choose a man, she will choose a black man like me because I'm setting the standard for her. That moved me to tears. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. Any further speakers? The chair recognizes the Honorable Anthony Richardson. You
Good
have
morning,
the floor.
Mr. Acting Speaker, fellow colleagues, and the listening audience. I want to add my comments of congratulations to every single person that was involved on May 26th for Bermuda Day. First of all, the road race for the paddle bikes. They had some challenges in terms of having marshals available, but I want to commend Mr. Dunn, who is the president of the Bermuda Bicycling Association, because he made the statement, the race will go on.
Yes.
And then beyond that, of course, we had the Bermuda Day Half Marathon, definitely an exciting race, difficult running conditions, and I will certainly add my congratulations to everyone that participated. I think sometimes during the race, we forget that there are actually many, many categories. And so to every single person that participated, there are one or two that I have significant commendation for, but I will not mention them right now, but they did very, very well based upon their own commitment. But Mr. Acting Speaker, more than that, I want to say that on the day, I got completely drenched at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But the reason why I mentioned that is because I was actually helping some young people. I was parked near Lobster Pot, and I walked from there down to Bermuda Road and got soaked. But guess what? There are many, many young people that were preparing for the parade, and as young as like 6, they were still prepared to go and march or dance, whatever they were doing in the parade, soaking wet. And I want to specifically mention Miss Deshay Hollis, who is my niece. She actually is responsible for the dance group Sue Generous. And I say that because the children range in age from about 5 to as old as maybe in their teens. And they had to get transported from Devonshire to Front Street. So I asked a lady, you may know, Miss Debbie Brown, if I could actually use her minibus. She said, yes, of course, and allowed me to drive the children through. And they were then able to experience the parade. And during the actual process, there's another young lady who was assisting the Bermuda motocross riders. She has a young son that participates. And I helped her to move things also. And it was just amazing because there was such a family camaraderie around all of that. And the takeaway from that is that whilst we may sometimes complain, Bermuda does have that enduring spirit that when they want to work together, they will work together. Old, young, black, white, Bermudian, non-Bermudian, the whole 9 yards came out. And so to everyone that participated, and Bermuda for sure, congratulations for what we all experienced on Bermuda Day 2023. A tremendous, tremendous day. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Richardson. Any further? The chair recognizes the Honorable Cannonier.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. Congratulations. I'd like to give to today on Randy Rochester, having had him as a PS. He was tremendous to work with, quite frankly. And I know that PS is sometimes can get bad reps, but we have some really, really good civil servants. He's going to be a huge loss, and that's what our government is going to have to face in civil service, where many of these really good people are going into the private sector, replacing, quite frankly, another former civil servant's position in the private sector. So great to work with. We see each other, quite frankly, all the time. His daughter and my grandson in school class together. So congratulations to his new appointment. I would like to give congratulations to the Speaker for his 65th birthday. I knew him long before I got involved in politics, and have always respected him. Everyone, for the House, everyone's given congratulations pretty much. He's a fantastic man. I hope that he's away enjoying this momentous 65th birthday. It is quite an achievement. I went 60 myself, and I'm having difficulty admitting 60. So 65 is quite an achievement.
I thought you so.
Yeah, I thought I was. I look it, sure. But one other member I'd like to, that a former member of the House, the former honorable member, Bob Richards, celebrated his 75th birthday. The guy does not look 75 at all. I will say he was a menace in cabinet. He was a menace in this House. But and always in everything that he did when it came to the politics, he was earnest and forthright. You could never blame him for not being forthright about what he believed in. And so 75 years is quite a momentous occasion. In fact, he and his wife both celebrated 75. His birthday on the 16th of May and hers on the 10th. So congratulations to them on quite an achievement and a model family for Bermuda, a truly model family for Bermuda. In addition to that, I didn't hear anyone as yet, maybe I missed it, but I want to congratulate Lamont Marshall on his victory.
Yeah, it was done.
It was done, yeah. My apologies, I might have stepped out at the time. But again, I joined in the chorus of congratulating a young man who continues to be a model in the sports arena. Congratulations to him as well. Thank you.
Any further speakers? The chair recognizes Honorable Colonel Birch.
Mr. Speaker, first I'd like to be associated with the condolences for Cornel Smith, as well as the congratulations to Carlton Pepe on the occasion of his 80th birthday. I don't know if I want to fully congratulate and commiserate Mr. Randy Rochester. I didn't know him until he came to the ministry as a permanent secretary. And I always anticipate that they come to work with me with a certain amount of trepidation. And so I usually have the same conversation with every PS I don't know, that I don't care about your politics. I don't care about anything that you do other than in your job, you must be honest, and I'll be honest with you, and I will never throw you under the bus. But you'll never have to guess where I'm coming from. And so over the last 3 or 4 years, we've actually developed quite a good relationship in the sense that we did what we do. We're honest with one another. I protect him, and I'm going to go off the rails. I tell him to, you know nothing about what I'm going to do. So you can't, and they say to you, why didn't you stop your minister from doing stuff? He can honestly say, I knew nothing what that crazy man was going to do. But it's been an actual joy to work with him because I think that one of the things that we uniquely have in common is a willingness to help all of the people in the ministry, in the sense that from students to people who have been promoted, to people who come to work for us, to people who are interested in just being successful, even outside of the ministry. I know what he thinks, and I know he knows what I think about that I'm always going to agree with hiring students and doing what is best. And so in a very positive way, I say to people who've asked me, what you can do without Rochester, I'm saying, we're going to be fine because we plan for the departure of everybody. He used to, I think he still does, blames me for the departure of many of the young engineers that we've highlighted. He said, you go on TV and advertise to the private sector, we've got these bright people and they come and poach them. And so I say to him that, you can't blame me for them coming and poaching you because I didn't go on TV and say anything about you. I say, you've done that all yourself. And so I wish him well in his new adventure. And I know that the ministry will be fine. And he knows that the ministry will be fine. We've already figured out who's going to act. They turned down my offer to act as PS, or they found a permanent one. But be that as it may, we will progress and we will flourish. And I, as I said to him, I said, that is a testament of your legacy. Not that you've done such a good job that when you leave, everything collapses because one person's not there, but the fact that you have put people in place and trained them so that they are able to pick up the baton and carry on the good work that he started. So I wish him the very best and success. And I know we will we will interact because he's going to a place that is one of only two entities in the country that do asphalting. And so we already have a very close and working relationship with East Sound Asphalt. And so there'll be regular interaction with him, and I will be able to still be able to sometimes fellowship together. So I wish him well in his new career and much success in that regard. Thank you.
Any further speakers? The chair recognizes Honorable Member Susan Jackson.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'd just like to send condolences to two families, and I'd like to associate the opposition leader, Cole Simons. This first condolences goes to the family of Betty Lesper, née Keynes. She worked at Belco for many years and certainly made a contribution not only to the company, but to the community in her support and her role there. And so I'd like to send condolences to her family. I'd also like to send condolences to the son of Ursula I'd like to send condolences to Ursula Vallis Darrell, and these are condolences on the loss of her son, Kevin Darrell. We're very sorry to hear of that loss, and we certainly send our thoughts and prayers to the families. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? There appear to be none. Before we close, I would like to send condolences to the family of Ms. Constance Hollis from Harlem, Bailey's Bay, the wife of the late Robert Hollis, and she leaves to mourn sons Robert, Frankie, Graham, and Christopher. She was the sister of Goody Smith, Reverend Goody Smith, Bishop Goody Smith, around the corner, around there. She'll be sorely missed by one and all, and I want to associate Minister Tanay further with that. Okay, the next agenda item is matters of privilege. There are none. Any personal explanations? None. Notice of motions for the adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance? None. Introduction of bills. Government bills, I think it's Minister Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am introducing the following bill so that it may be placed on the order paper for the next day of meeting. Personal Information Protection Amendment Act 2023.
Okay. That's it. No further bills. Let me just call Acting Speaker Fooker.
Opposition bills, there are none. And that private members' bills, there are none. Notices of motion, there are none. That brings us to orders of the day. Right. Excuse me. Okay, all right, thank you. We have two orders down for the day, and that is the second reading of the Financial Assistance Amendment Act 2023 and the second reading of the Tourism Investment Amendment Act 2023. I call on the Minister of Economy and yes, Minister of Economy of Labor, of Economy and Labor. And Minister, let me point out the time to you. It is now just about 12:25, and it might be a good time for us to carry over for lunch because it doesn't make sense. You are beginning the second reading and then we have to break. So Deputy Premier, I call on you.
Thank you, Madam
Sure.
Acting Deputy Speaker. I move that we adjourn for lunch until 2 p.m.
Yes. Lunch is from now until 2 p.m. And so members. Yes, that's what I just said.